All right, good morning to you right here on your Lake Country Leader, Q94.7. We're having a few little technical glitches this morning. Computers are just either they're the greatest thing in the history of the planet or the worst thing that you ever have to go through.
Yeah, hasn't been a good...
It's the worst thing you ever have to go through, and it has just been one of those mornings. So we're going to get through it, though. That's okay. We're gonna make it one way or the other. Y'all, you're listening to Offsides, being brought to you by Womack Construction, along with the fine folks at the Oil Pit, D&J Polaris, and Texoma Foam. Also, you can
check.
Now we're here.
Hello, Rickerless.
Yeah, now we're here. But yeah, we're having. I don't know. Can you say this is like DEFCON 5 computer problems?
No, because DEFCON 5 probably runs the software a little higher grade than Windows 2000, folks. That's what we're working with in the station. Windows 2000. I was in 8th grade.
8th grade. So. We're going to get through it. We're going to have a good time this morning. So, Rick, Joe, and Travis here with you this morning with Offsides. And it's just, one of those days. We're going to get through it. All right, guys. I want to thank the Oil Pit, Cody, and all the gang down at the Oil Pit taking care of business. Also, want a big thank you out there to D&J Polaris. Big thank you to Texoma Foam and to the coach.
Womack.
That's right. He had the stats last night. I was really proud of that.
Did an awesome job with the stats.
Did a great job last night. So we'll be talking about that. All right, guys. Kicking it off this morning with a little high school football. And, again, the Graham Steers go over the half-century mark.
Absolutely, and it was just a fantastic performance from the Steers. You had Dylan Gonzalez with 4 touchdowns in the first quarter, and the Graham Steer defense not giving up anything in that first quarter. So it was pretty electrifying to start the game out. They wanted to come out and start the game off on a good foot, and they sure did.
Yeah, and I mean the way that they were playing last night, everything was working good. The offense was playing well, the defense was playing well. Everything was really rolling last night, and you really got to be I guess you'd say encouraged for the future. The way this team can pretty much play with anybody.
Absolutely, and you've got to be really excited about the game against Abilene Wiley coming up.
Oh man,
gonna be a blast. Let's Rick, what do you say we go through last night's game a little more in depth? I've got some stats and stuff, and we can talk about it. First of all, I don't know who had the best game last night, because, you look at, Ben Davis threw for 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That's pretty fantastic. Then you look at Dylan Gonzalez, 21 carries, 106 yards. We've seen him go over that a bunch of times, but that's pretty good when you're scoring 4 touchdowns on that.
Yeah, and the way he was rolling with it last night, and they didn't even use that little flat pass last night one time.
No, but here's the kicker, Rick. Bryce Reeves, number 7, the receiver for the Steers, 8 grabs. You want to guess how many yards?
I'm saying he had to have close to 300.
Well, he had 216 and 3 touchdowns. So 8 catches for 216 yards. That averages out to 27 yards a catch. Those are huge chunks, Rick.
Wow, that is pretty amazing. So, it is. Watching him play last night, the way that when he caught the ball, what they call the yak yards.
Yes, yards after catch.
Yards after the catch. He was getting a lot of that last night.
Absolutely. Did a fantastic job. The Graham Steer defense only allowed 18 yards rushing on 17 attempts.
That's pretty amazing.
All around, it was just an amazing game for the Graham Steers, and pretty obvious why they ended up winning like they did. I believe the score was 56-15.
Yeah, and the way the defense played last night was pretty amazing. They finally gave up a touchdown, but you know that's going to happen eventually. And but the way they played last night, you got to really be encouraged for the future. Some of these tougher games coming up, and the way that they did last night, and everybody was, and Joe even talked about a little bit. It was just another day at the office for them.
Yeah, and, I don't have a lot of defensive stats. I usually get those pretty, like Monday, at the first of the week or Sunday night at best. But I can tell you that Jesse Ramos had a huge sack. Bonner Cottongame was all over the field, getting tackles in the backfield, just had a fantastic game, shooting through the gaps and finding running backs. And that's a big reason why you see those 18 carries or those 17 carries for only 18 yards.
Yeah, Brownwood couldn't do much of nothing last night. And we do know, actually, they did have 7 guys out last night, but due to different various reasoning. And I thought it was pretty cool. You do have to give Brownwood credit in a couple areas. First of all, to have the chest hair to stand up and say, look, we're going to set these guys down for things that were going on.
Sure.
And they said this is no excuse.
Absolutely. And, that's a sign of character. Who knew? No, I'm kidding. But, no, and we expect the same thing from our Graham coaches. And I know that if, we have discipline problems on the Graham side, they take care of it no matter who's coming up, on the schedule. It's about, these, at the end of the day, these are kids and they're in athletics, for a short period of time. And while you have them, the best thing you can teach them is how to be decent adults.
Joe, you were down the sideline last night with the Steers coaches and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what were you seeing down there, the guys? I mean, I know they started out like a house of fire. What was the mood along on the bench down there?
Well, the mood was actually really, really good. When I interviewed Ben after the game, and I got it was kind of alluded to me a little bit throughout, I think it was the second or third quarter. One of the things that the Steers looked at last year was looking at their games, seeing how they started out of the gate, they realized that they just kind of came out sluggish. They didn't come out firing on all cylinders. And while we had a really, really successful year, a lot of that was due second quarter and beyond. So they really put an emphasis on coming out of the gate, firing on all cylinders. And I hate to keep using that cliche. I think that's the
well, I mean, that's something that a lot of people were using last night. I mean, we were using it, that they were really clicking, and everything that they were doing last night, no matter what it was, offense, defense, you name it, they were doing it.
Now, granted, we played Mineral Wells last week, and of course Mineral Wells got throttled last night as well. So
man.
I don't know how much of a test or how much of a gauge you can do against that. But and then playing Brownwood last night, but it sets the tone hopefully for the rest of the season when you see that they can come out like that, everything clicking, everything's rolling, and going forward when you maybe you're going to come out, I'm going to probably go out there and say not every game is going to come out where you get 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. So. But knowing that, we have the capability of doing that and the confidence that you can do that, sure, we're going to come out one of these games and we're going to get popped in the nose right out of the gate, but we're going to have the confidence to know, guys, we can just turn this thing around and we can get back to doing what we're doing. So that's really encouraging to see. You guys talk about the discipline. I was talking to one of the players on the sidelines last night. He was mentioning, that Graham has got a way of kind of handling their business in-house, and they have a set, you've got a set of academic rules that prohibit players from playing on the team or playing on the field if they're, for academic issues. But they also kind of have a set of team rules that, if you violate certain team rules, that there's going to be consequences for that, whether it be sitting out a game or some other, other type of infraction. So from a standpoint of building good young men and good players, it's good to see that they have not only the academic side, which everybody's going to have, but we're going to have a good set of team values to kind of build some character there. So that's really encouraging to see with these young guys, especially with these coaches.
Now, the coaches last night, when you get a team that puts up almost 40 points before halftime each, what does he do as a coach? You just say, all right, keep doing what you're doing. We've got to slack off on this team. What do you do in a situation like that?
I think you just find little things to coach here and there. We saw Coach Merritt on the sideline talking to his offensive line and just saying, hey, there are still a couple of things we can work on, and, kind of, sitting them down and getting some things figured out. And actually, after they huddled up, they've already scored 40-something points. After they, huddled up on the sideline and went back out, they actually looked a lot better. So, as a coach, you just find little things out there, and you got to be honest with your guys. You got to say, hey, look, I know we're up. I'm not trying to nitpick, but this is going to help us down the run. And I think kids respond to that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never been in the coaching profession like that. I'd like to have a coach sitting here and ask them, what's tougher, coaching a game when you're 40 points behind or coaching a game when you're 40 points ahead?
Oh, I absolutely think 40 points ahead. 40 points behind, you have no decisions to make. You just, go do what you got to do. 40 points ahead, that's a different deal. You do have to make some decisions on who you're going to play and what plays you're going to run.
Yeah, and I mean that was a challenge that the Steers are probably going to have to deal with for a few more games going down the line.
One of the things we wanted to do this morning is kind of come in and replay some of the highlights from last night's game. But apparently, in the year 2000, when our version of Windows was done here at the station, we're not able to do that. But I think what we're going to try to do is maybe insert some of those highlights from last night's game into the kind of the after show. We're going to basically take this show and put it up on YouTube, put the links for our Facebook and our Twitter so you can go listen to it. We're going to try to insert some of those highlights. Can't guarantee that it's going to happen, but I think we're going to definitely have them for next week. Computers are a fickle bunch.
I mean, it was crazy. Everything was working until about 10 minutes before 9 o'clock, and then it just fell all to pieces.
Yeah, it had a great way of just kind of freezing up and ruining everything, so just in time for us not to have any time to fix anything.
But again, oil pit, I mean, if you need to get your oil changed and you're looking to get maybe an inspection done on your vehicle, get it by the oil pit out there on 4th Street. Cody, part of that Hughes dynasty that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Got the Hunter and Hagen out there on the field. And so go by and see them for all your oil change needs. That's the oil pit. Also, Walmart Construction and Cornerstone Pools. If you're needing to get some, renovation done at your house, or one of those really cool oases in your backyard, Walmart Construction is the place to go.
That's right. Now, Rick, there was some other really awesome football games.
Yes, we're going to get those scores in just a moment.
Okay.
And we'll get to that. Also want to, I think, D&J Polaris, they, if you need an ATV or looking for a motorcycle, hey, go by DJ Polaris right there on Southview Street. And also Texoma Foam, which I got that foam stuff put on my roof of my house, and it'll be there long after I'm gone.
So you got the foam put on the roof. Do you just drop Matt from a helicopter and let him bounce off the roof?
Yes.
Is that how the Edwards
that's how we
Saturday afternoons?
That's how we figure out if the hail will not tear up the house as we drop Matt from a helicopter. Good. All right. Speaking of those scores that Travis was getting to a while ago, last night Aledo taking on number 2 Stephenville.
Throttled.
56-14 last night. You take a number 2 team in 3A, you play a top team in 4A. You would think Stephenville would show a little bit better than that, but I mean, Aledo just knocked the tar out of them last night.
I think Aledo might be one of the top 3 teams in the state of Texas, regardless of classification. They are just so strong.
Really good game last night. Okay, Abilene Wiley coming in next week. Taking on Bridgeport, 38-6 in that game. Abilene Wiley over Bridgeport, but we knew Bridgeport's not the strongest team in 3A out there.
Yeah.
Abilene Wiley going to come back from that big win or that big loss last week to Argyle.
Yeah, no real surprises in that one.
Not a big surprise in that one. Speaking of Argyle, taking on Fort Worth Nolan High School last night, 44-21. Argyle, that's one of the teams we're going to keep an eye on the rest of the year. This one surprised me a little bit.
Give it to me.
Decatur 35, Springtown 28.
I was about to mention that. That was very interesting because we saw Decatur in the scrimmage, or at least I was up there,
right,
and I was not thoroughly impressed. Actually, they've got considered a top-notch quarterback, but I guess there were a lot of drops. He didn't have a lot of guys to throw to. The run game couldn't get anything going against the Steers, and so I was really not impressed by Decatur. And of course, we got Springtown coming up on the schedule, so that's interesting to see that they ended up getting beat by the Eagles. Yeah,
35 points on top of that. I mean, that's a pretty big score right there. The Lake Worth Bullfrogs, we saw them last year in the playoffs. They beat Bowie last night 42-20. That one surprised me somewhat. We were Buckaroo fans yesterday, big time. We were wanting Breckenridge to take down Vernon.
Yes,
because we're not the biggest Vernon Line fans around this area.
Didn't quite happen, did it?
No, Vernon 48, Breckenridge 3 in that one. Yesterday, I was reading an article in the Wichita Falls Times Record News, the coach.
Why would you read that trash?
Well, I was reading about the Hershey Huskies. The coach of the Hershey Huskies had said that the game against Mineral Wells was going to be a huge measuring stick on whether or not Hershey was going to match up against Graham.
And, well, that's wrong. Wow.
But Hershey wins last night 68-0 over Mineral Wells. We know Mineral Wells had they lost their best linebacker last week due to a knee injury. They did not have their top running back last week. Their offensive line is Swiss cheese. And, I mean, you can run through the holes all day long on that thing. And Hershey is better. We know that. But this is the first time since 1997 the Hershey Huskies have went 2-0.
That's fantastic.
And I like seeing this because I know they're going to beat Iowa Park, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's right. The better Hershey gets, the closer we get to small school.
Exactly. So Hershey last night with the measuring stick took it to Mineral Wells 68-0, and I know that the people in at Hershey High School are going to be like, "Hey, we're 15 points better than Graham." So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're going to say that. Yeah. I can't wait. When they're saying that to play that game.
That's right. By the way, that game was on Halloween night. Thursday, in Wichita Falls. So we'll be spending our Halloween in Wichita Falls that night.
Spooky.
Yeah. All right. Also, some of the other games around the area in our listing area. Cisco last night takes out Clyde, 48-14. It was the Eastland Mavericks over the Jacksboro Tigers last night in 2A action, 60-0.
Yikes.
Eastland's good.
They are good. They looked good against Graham. I mean, it looked, they're a 2A school, so you have to kind of, judge that a little differently. I mean, Graham was obviously the better team, but Graham's a highly ranked 3A team. So, but they looked like a really good 2A team, and they went out and proved it against Jacksboro.
Speaking of good 2A teams, the Holiday Eagles last night taking on one of the better 1A teams, 25-14 over Windthorst. We know Windthorst year after year after year is always a good one. Archer City last night falls to Wichita Falls City View, 23-6 last night. So it was Archer City losing to the City View Mustangs. And also in our area, the Albany Tigers last night over Jeff Williamson and the Gymnet Indians, 36-26, and that one, Albany's always a good one. And in another game, the Anson Uncles take out Alney 62-32.
Good one, Rick.
I know. The Anson Uncles, actually the Anson Tigers, but the Anson Tigers last night over Alney, 62-32. We had a deal like this one time when we did this show before, where we were taking names of towns and giving them the better name for their mascot, and I think Anson Uncles actually was one of in the top three.
That's pretty cute there, Rickolas.
Yeah, Ferris, they were the Wheels. Argyle, the Sox, of course.
Ferris Wheels, yeah.
Argyle Sox,
I like it.
The Anson Uncles. I mean, taking
what were Graham? The Crackers?
No, we were Sears. Seymour last night over the Haskell Indians, 39-13 in that matchup. Last night also, this one a high-scoring six-man game. Wichita Falls Notre Dame 85 over the Bryson Cowboys 36.
Wow,
that's a lot of points.
That is a lot of points. Those six-man games are exciting, man. Guys all over the field.
Okay, we're going to give the shocker of the night. This is the shocker of the night. Yeah, Newcastle 42, Abilene Christian 38. Abilene Christian ranked number 3 in the state. And the Newcastle Bobcats take them down.
Ty Spitzer.
That's right.
Doing it over at Newcastle.
42-38.
Love watching those Bobcats.
And Throckmorton last night, the last game on our list, Throckmorton 60, Santa Ana 13.
Was it windy out there?
May have been. The winds of Santa Ana got it. But yeah, they Throckmorton wins again last night. So wherever your teammate and Iowa Park, people are saying, what about Iowa Park? Iowa Park plays Gainesville today at Memorial Stadium.
Awesome.
So Iowa Park
be
will be
keeping track of that one.
Yes, I will definitely keep track
on Twitter
of that.
While I'm watching college football.
So that'll be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Last week we had game day etiquette we discussed. Today we have a man law we need to talk over since both of you guys have boys that you are raising that that you need to impart your manism to them. I've already done that with my sons. They're both very successful men. But choosing a career path. Choosing a career path. If you're going to tell your boys a career path to choose, there are 10 suggestions in the man law on trying to steer your boys to any of these career paths. Number 10, a fireman.
Absolutely.
That's a manly job.
Sure.
Number 9, an Alaskan crab fisherman. Another manly job.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be a man to do that job.
Sure. I mean, you've got to be a man to clean sewage, but, I mean, do you
got to
really
be a man to do that job.
You know?
Number 8, a Black Hawk pilot. Definitely a man job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Definitely a man job. Number 7, a sharpshooter. And this brings up the fact about wearing your hat in the right position. The only reason why you wear your hat backwards is either you're a catcher or a sharpshooter.
Well, I must be a sharpshooter.
Yeah, I guess you're a sharpshooter. You got your hat backwards.
Because I'm a left-hander.
But,
so can't catch. But
it's catcher or sharpshooter. So there you go. Number 6 on the list, trying to drive your kids to this career path. And then after we get to these, we're going to get to college football. The cigar roller.
That's a career?
Evidently.
Sign me up for that.
What
does that pay?
A cigar roller.
Is that something maybe... That seems like an odd career choice. I mean, that seems more like a hobby than a career choice. A cigar roller.
Do you have tobacco grown in your backyard where you can do that as a hobby?
Well, no. I mean, we don't live in North Carolina.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, that's just on the list here. Is it part of the career choice you got to steer your kids toward? Number 5, a brewmaster.
Yeah,
a brewmaster.
You're not really taking any bullets or anything there.
No.
Just...
Number 4, a Marine sniper.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I think I
like sharpshooter.
That's a manly job. No, it's a different deal.
Okay, sorry. Whoa.
No, total different. Number 3, a lumberjack, because I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
Yeah.
But lumberjack. Number 2, career path that you need to steer your kids toward is a ninja. That's what it said.
Yeah.
And number 1,
a hired ninja. I'm a professional ninja.
And number 1,
Taekwondo.
Number 1 on the list.
Got cool bow hunting skills.
Girls love guys with skills.
Nunchuck skills.
The number 1 career path on the list, according to manlaw.com, is a pirate.
Like a MP3?
No, I'm thinking more like a Johnny Depp kind of pirate.
Movie?
Yeah.
Pirate?
The Johnny Depp kind of pirate.
Listen, Rick, most of the time you get your information, sometimes from the internet. Did you make that up?
No, I'm dead serious. This came from official man laws, choosing career path, rules to live by for the common man.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you might have made that up because pirate. I mean, I'm not sure. What do you? I know you're handing me the sheet, but it's written. It's written in Times New Roman, and there's nothing else on the sheet.
Look it down at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, it's blank.
No, whatever. It says.
I mean, where do you send your kids?
Official
to a you just let them watch movies all day.
Officialmanlaws.com.
Why does that say Word document?
It does. Yeah. Officialmanlaws.com. Get that. So
where does sports journalists rank?
So number 1. Now we don't want to send your kids to a job like that, But
if we send our kids to be sportscasters and news journalists, do you think? I mean, Travis's kiddo's what, 1? Mm-hmm. My boy is 9, so you figure you got about 16 to 17, maybe 18 years before they really get into the business if we want them to be broadcasters. Do you think when they're broadcasters, they'll still be running Windows 2000 here?
I would imagine. Probably.
Oh, Windows 2000. Everybody, prepare yourselves for Y2K. It's going to go down.
But, yeah, it happens. So there you go. There's your man laws of the day. And, no, if either one of y'all tries to get your kids in broadcasting or journalism, I will call child abuse people. So just letting you know that. All right. We want to thank, again, we hit the bottom of the hour. I want to thank all of our sponsors again. We're having some technical problems with our commercials this morning. But, hey, the fine folks at Oil Pit, DJ Polaris, Texoma Foam. When you need to get that, roof foamed up, man, they got you going. And also the coach, Womack, Cornerstone Pools and Womack Construction. And you can go by and he's got signs all over the place for Womack Construction. You see some of his handiwork. I want to thank these guys big time.
DJ Polaris, One of the cool things about those guys, you got deer season coming up. Dove season just started last weekend. Had the greatness of doing some dove hunting, and one of the best ways to get from where you're parking your truck to where you want to do some dove hunting, go by the Polaris shop, pick you up one of them UTVs, either UTVs, RTVs, get you either a 2-seater or a 4-seater Ranger. They got them out there. They're awesome. Go out, check them out. Those guys will be definitely hooking you up out there.
So go by and see DJ and Polaris right there on 16 South and Southview. All right, college football. Time to take a look at college football for a little bit. And college football coming up. I mean, last week we had some pretty big games. I know some of the big games this week coming up. Was it Michigan Notre Dame is one of the big ones?
Absolutely
coming up this week. Well, we got some others that are pretty huge too.
Well, Rick, let's start off by looking at some local schools.
Yes.
The people that are listening to us are probably following at least one of these teams. I guess, okay, first of all, is 12 p.m. Eastern Time 1 p.m. Central Time? Can anybody answer that for me?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm just going to pretend that it is. So at 1 p.m., you've got Southeastern Louisiana at number 24 TCU.
Sounds like that'll actually be a really good game. TCU coming off that loss from last week. I don't really think that the loss last week is an indication on any type of season they're going to have. So I look for them to bounce back this week.
Sure, showed a lot of fight, and that one just couldn't quite pull it out against the LSU Tigers, who were a very formidable opponent.
What other games we got going on Saturday? I'll tell you, we're going to hold off on the biggest game, I think, of the day. A little bit later. What else you got coming down the road?
Let's stay local. 4:30 p.m. Buffalo at number 23 Baylor. 8 p.m. we got Sam Houston State at number 7 Texas A&M. That'll be a fun one to watch. Of course, you want to see Johnny Manziel, see what he's got for a full game.
Can we take a stop down real quick on that?
Go ahead.
From last week, we obviously saw the first half. Quote, air quotes here, suspension of Johnny Football.
Mm-hmm.
I've got no allegiance to A&M. Really have no allegiance to any Texas schools.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated from North Texas, so we didn't really have a good football team. But the whole Johnny Manziel thing, one of the you kind of wonder about that kid. You kind of wonder about his head a little bit. He comes into the game like a firecracker. I mean, Rice was bringing it the first half. And so he comes into the game and, just making plays like everybody knows he can do. You gotta think, though, from not only a Rice standpoint, but, you're going to play Alabama coming up. He pretty much gave the book on how to Alabama to get 15 yards for free.
Sure.
And so you just wonder, is anybody going to be able to get through to him to let him know, all the stuff you do in the offseason is going to have, repercussions on you coming up this season. So keep your head in the game. I know that they were doing the whole deal last year with flashing the money or, whatever this touchdown sign is, but maybe it's time to kind of get rid of some of that. I know it's part of the game. I know it's exciting and all, but,
sure.
If it's going to end up, you're playing Rice, so maybe some of that stuff isn't going to cost you, but you are going to be playing some tougher SEC teams coming up. So maybe we need to focus more on football and not let things like, somebody doing a fake signature or something get your mouth moving and get you 15 yards.
Well, I'm not an Aggie either, Joe, but I will tell you this, I forever, for about 5 years, I've hated ESPN. I hate what they do to sports. They turn everything into a story about emotions and stuff instead of what's going on the field or court or whatever it may be. And so I think they've turned him into this kind of star. And I think the opponents that he's going to face see him as some superstar. And so they want to, get their 15 minutes of fame by jawing at the superstar and then tweeting to all their buddies how they got, under Manziel's skin. So what he's got to do is just kind of rise above that stuff and not let himself become susceptible because, he's got to remember that these other kids on these teams are seeing him all over TV, national TV, all day, every day with people talking about him. Hey, I want to make one correction, though. Okay, so Southeastern Louisiana at number 24 TCU. That's going to be at 11 p.m. Central Time. Buffalo at Baylor, 2:30 Central Time. Sam Houston State at Texas A&M, 6 p.m. Central Time. And then the next game coming up, this might be an interesting one, Joe. Number 15 Texas at Brigham Young at 6 p.m.
Yeah, you wonder what Brigham Young's got this year. They've really been a good team out west for many, many years now. You hope that Texas can go out there and get a win. Probably a lot of Steer fans out there are probably also Longhorn fans, kind of same animal. I think you probably have to like them. As you can tell, I'm not a Longhorn fan either. Which I love to throw in the face of my father-in-law because he loves the Longhorns.
Sure.
So that makes for a good Saturday.
The mom side of my family is completely split, and some of them don't even speak to each other because some are Aggies, some are Longhorns. I was raised by the Longhorn faction, but, growing up near TCU, I mean, even though they were kind of irrelevant for many years, once they got good, they were kind of, my favorite team to watch because they were the closest one geographically.
I'll tell you, not to go off on a tangent, we're talking about this BYU game, but the thing that irks me about Texas every year is recruiting day. They're the national champions, and it never seems to go anywhere with that.
They're the Anaheim Angels of college football.
Boy, that's a good reference. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's what they are. The problem is Texas does work so hard to recruit these juniors and sophomores that, there's so much development by your senior year, even by your freshman year in college, and they've still got guys that they're turning away, your RG3s, your Johnny Manziels, your last two Heisman Trophy winners, because they don't think they can play in their system. Instead, they go with some knucklehead like David Ash, who couldn't throw the ball 10 yards to you, Joe. And maybe that's a little harsh, but I have just not been impressed by him. I know they put up a lot of points in the second half, but how long did it take them to get going?
You think Texas was watching that Florida State game last Monday night, wondering how did we miss on that guy?
Yeah, I bet they are. I bet they're thinking, how did we miss on a lot of these guys? That's one thing that these area coaches are doing a lot better than Texas is just identifying talent and not getting bogged down with these quote unquote huge contracts or what I like to call, this early recruiting and getting bogged down with these guys that don't turn out to be good college football players.
It's a good point.
Okay, next up. Okay, this is not local. These are just some good games. Now, 11 p.m., you've got number 12 Florida at Miami. Probably not a good game, but a rivalry match there.
Years ago, that was a headline game. You've got those three big Florida schools, and anytime those guys played each other, it was huge. Miami and Florida both are coming off. Florida was a powerhouse for so many years with Tebow, and then obviously before that. But both of those teams, I think, are probably in a little bit of rebuilding. So, should be a good game. Anytime those Florida schools get together, it usually is.
Sure. 2:30, number 2 Oregon at Virginia. Probably not going to be a good one, but two, programs that have a little history. So not with each other, but just,
Oregon should obviously dominate that.
Sure. Now here's a big one, Joe.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you. 3:30 p.m., number 6 South Carolina with Clowney himself. And number 11 Georgia. What do you think about that game?
Clowney last week, he is going to be I think him and Johnny, of course the Louisville quarterback's probably got something to say about this, but I think him and Johnny are going to be the front runners for the Heisman this year. You talk about ESPN and you talk about what they've done to Manziel. They might have done it a little bit to Clowney as well, because I think in my sleep at night, as I'm dreaming, I think I still see that Clowney hit. And not to say that he's not a great player. Last week he was not feeling his best, but he was still able to bring it. So the old ball coach down there, Mr. Spurrier, is able to usually get his team up. So this game against Georgia is going to be huge.
Well, and I follow a lot of NFL scouts, and they kind of are freelance NFL scouts because they say they make more money that way. And
we all are, aren't we, though?
Well, these guys actually get paid a lot of money to do it. But I guess, the one guy that they all say is the best NFL-ready player in football is Clowney. I mean, they all come to a consensus, and they all love him. And they have a lot better opinion on, a read on what makes NFL talent than I do. So, I know, I hate to say it.
A read?
I hate to say it, but
you had a read.
I know how to read, Joe.
Now, the thing about Clowney that I really like is, you look at somebody like a quarterback, just from the position itself,
Sure.
It doesn't look like, and again, I'm not picking on Manziel, I'm just using him as an example here. You look at him, he's not, he's kind of a run around the field kind of guy, stuff like that. A quarterback, you're relying on your receivers to also catch the ball and get it for you, versus a defensive guy like that, it's pretty much just put your head down and go. And the ability to maybe move him around a little bit, to get him back there, mean, he basically has one job. It's go get them.
Sure.
And so the beauty of that is that he's a big, strong, tough guy. He's going to be able to get through those lines. And I kind of look at him as being more, like you said, more of an impact player right away. Most of the times when quarterbacks go into the NFL from college, unless they're just a stud like Cam Newton or something like that, that can start right away.
Absolutely.
There's like a year or two of development, sometimes even more than that. You look at like a Brady Quinn or something like that. But Clowney, I think, is going to step into the NFL, game one. I'd say probably look for him to have a sack early on in his NFL career just because that's the type of player, impact player that he is.
Yeah, I think people love him because he's such a versatile defensive player. You can put him basically anywhere on that line of scrimmage, and you can get good things out of him. Now, here's a game for the brass up here, the suits, if you will. Mr. Rob Krecklow, I know he'll appreciate this. Number 22, Nebraska, his alma mater.
Cornhuskers.
That's right. Versus Southern Miss. That'll be at 5 p.m. Probably should have no problem in that one.
Now, is that at Southern or is it at Nebraska?
That is at Nebraska.
Yeah, so that's probably chalk that up for a win.
Here's a little Big 12 matchup. West Virginia at number 16, Oklahoma, 6 p.m.
Boomer Sooners.
Going for the Sooners in that one, huh?
Always got to go for the Sooners, yes.
I never go for the Sooners.
That's what makes us different.
All right. And hair.
Were you blessed by the hair gods?
More than you, sir.
Boy, you ain't lying.
7 p.m. Number 14, Notre Dame at number 17, Michigan. Another great game. Two big-time programs. And one thing, Notre Dame kind of makes their own schedule. Of course, they always play Army and Navy, but I do like the fact that they're stepping out and they're playing some difficult teams this season.
They had a really, really good season last year, and of course, Notre Dame, Michigan is one of those. Notre Dame, Michigan State is always one of those games that you want to have it on your TV just to be able to flip back and forth to see what those guys are doing. Is it a Notre Dame home game this year?
It is a Michigan home game.
Michigan home game. So you got to go up to the big house. What is that? 110,000 people up there.
Yeah, it's big.
They're probably listening to us right now, tailgating,
Absolutely.
Getting everything going. So
yeah, they're tuned in to the queue.
Q. So you got to go up to the big house and you got to play in front of 110,000 people. And that's, again, one of those games that while you're doing all your other stuff, you're watching all your other stuff, you want to make sure you have that so you can flip back and forth. A lot of people, Notre Dame is one of those teams, you either love them or you hate them. And I'm not going to say I love them, but I don't hate them. I like to watch them. I like to see what they're going to do. They're one of those schools that they seem to struggle from not really being in a strong conference. It's tough to get kids to go up there.
Don't ever say Notre Dame struggles.
Why?
Because they don't have any problems recruiting.
Well, they have a problem recruiting kids that are going to be able to come up there and play and also pass academically. That's they have some academic standards that are a little bit higher than some of your schools that just kind of open the barn door and let them in. I
can't stand Notre Dame. I hate the fact that they're not in a conference. I hate the fact that, back in the day, it was all about Notre Dame and everybody else can just,
Why you got to hate?
Get out of here. I'm a hater.
You're a hater.
I guess. I don't know. That's stupid. But I can't stand Notre Dame personally. I think we saw it last year when they were clearly not the second best team and shouldn't have been in the national championship. They got in because so many people love Notre Dame and the quote-unquote history of Notre Dame and all that. And there have been some really great players and teams there. So
real quick, rank your hatred for Notre Dame in Windows 2000.
Ooh. Well, Windows 2000 at least tries. It's just not very good.
I would say maybe the same for Notre Dame sometimes.
Well, that's fair. I don't know. We'll have to get back to that. I'm going to need some time. That may be my next column.
Good deal.
What do I hate worse? Windows 2000 or Notre Dame? And last but not least, 9:30 p.m., you've got Mike Leach's Washington State at number 25 USC. You know he's going to upset somebody this year. Will it be the Trojans?
I'd love to see anybody beat the Trojans. You hate Notre Dame. I
hate the Trojans, too.
Oh, okay. Well,
I kind of am a hater. I kind of just hate a lot of teams,
Boy, you kind of do. My hatred for the Trojans is I think the Trojans are maybe also the angels of college football in that they are cut so much slack.
Sure.
Back when Seattle coach, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
what's his face?
Yeah, a guy that got out of there when the heat was coming. I'm not a fan of USC. I was always surprised every single year how they were always ranked so high. If you look at the players that have come out of USC, I think when you draft players into the NFL out of a college team, the measure of how good your college team is how well those players do in the NFL, and especially at your skill positions. You look at your running backs and your quarterbacks. Let's just take Matt Leinart, for example. Comes out of USC, cannot seem to land a starting job in the NFL.
Yep.
And it seems like a lot of those star players, Reggie Bush came out his first year. He was great and then just kind of fizzled out and really hasn't done much. So I think
Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, Mark Sanchez is another one. I think the way that you say how good your program is, look at the players coming out of LSU, out of A&M, out of Texas for that matter, out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Those guys are going in and they're starting and they're making a difference. USC, to my opinion, is just a Hollywood joke.
Hey, man. I'm with you on that one. Now, let's get Rick back in here because
come on in.
I think we need to talk about some of our sponsors who do such a great job of helping us out. And, Rick, I'm sorry you had to miss college football talk.
I was drinking water.
Well, that's not so bad.
I had to go to the bench, get a water break.
Water break, salt tablet.
It's too tough to set it up. But, yes, we do have some great sponsors, and I do want to thank Texoma Foam. Now, if you need to get that roof foamed up, and it's a really good deal because I got it done in my house, and it really, really does help keep the heat and the cool in, and it's great when it hails too. So we'll get you to get Texoma Foam. Also, want to thank the Coach Womack.
That's right.
That Cornerstone Pools and Womack Construction.
Gets us all our stats. He just basically does it all for this show. I don't know why he just doesn't come up here and do it himself because he's got all the info and we just kind of borrow from him.
He's kind of like the Chuck Norris of stats.
Absolutely.
So way to go, Coach. If you need an oasis in your backyard or you need a new house, he got you covered. Also want to thank DJ Polaris out there on 16 South and Southview Street. Taking care of business, ATVs, motorcycles, all that good stuff. So go by and see DJ Polaris and also the oil pit, where you can go by and get your oil changed. You can also get your transmission flushed out. And while you're there, you can get your car inspected. So go by and see them at the oil pit out there on 4th Street. And we want to thank these guys big time for being a part of our show today. And we still got 8 more weeks of this at least.
That's right, 8 more fun weeks. And maybe, just maybe, we can get the old Windows 2K to, boot up some of our ads and cool stuff and highlights of games and things like that.
We'll see. We'll see if we can get that one going. All right, we're about 15 minutes away from top of the hour, and typically the last 15 minutes of the hour we want to talk about pro ball and wrap up as well. Tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow is the day the NFL preview or comes out for real. And something about the Cowboys. You got the Cowboys and the Giants coming in. The Giants have never lost at the Death Star in Dallas, but both teams coming in with a lot of warts on them. So it's going to be interesting to watch this one. And Cowboys got Brian Waters this week, but he's not going to play tomorrow night. Anthony Spencer's not going to play tomorrow night due to a knee injury, or he says he's not going to play tomorrow night due to a knee injury. You've got guys with all kinds of injuries here and there. Both offensive lines are in pretty bad shape. You kind of got to give the edge to the Giants a little bit defensively because their defensive tackles are probably the 2 best defensive tackles in the NFL. And then you've got, on top of that,
Pierre-Paul might be out, though.
Well, that's true. And then you got that you got the makeshift offensive line for the Cowboys. It just, to me, looks for a recipe for disaster there.
Well, I looked to a couple of things. Of course, the Dallas defensive line is battered. You lost Ben Bass this week. He went to the IR. Now you've got Ratliff, Bass, potentially Spencer out. Really, you've only got Jason Hatcher and DeMarcus Ware, guys that we're going to know on that defensive line. Not that Bass is somebody we'd know, but he was expected to get reps and get plays in this game on the defensive line. Of course, Tyron Crawford, the draft pick in 2012, out for the rest of the season with an Achilles. So really, that defensive line has been so battered and beaten. It's just that's tough to watch. But, you talked about the defensive ends for the Giants, and I would argue that this could be interesting because I think this Tampa 2 that Monty Kiffin's brought in, I think he's done an excellent job so far from what I've seen of installing his defense. And so far it's forced a lot of turnovers. And if you don't believe in the power of turnovers, why don't you check out the latest copy of the Graham Leader? I got a big story on the value of turnovers and just what they mean to a football team. So check that out. But, not to get off topic, and then I look at the law of averages. Okay, the Giants have won their last 4 games in Cowboys Stadium. Do you think do you think they just own the place and they're going to win 100, or do you think there's a law of averages somewhere that says the Cowboys will eventually kind of start evening that out?
You know what I really seriously think the problem is that every time the Giants play the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, it's always like the Monday night premiere, the Sunday night premiere. It's a huge nationally televised game, and we know that every time the Cowboys have a big-time spotlight, nationally televised game, must-win situation, it always turns out bad.
Yeah, just like the opening game last year where we throttled the Giants at their place.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that when they're in Cowboy Stadium.
Well, what does that matter?
It always happens.
100 yards.
It always happens
like
at Cowboy
52
Stadium.
wide. I don't know how
it
wide
always
a football field
happens
is.
at Cowboy Stadium.
I'm not a rocket scientist. Yeah,
so,
Rick's one of those Romo guys who's like, man, when he's on television, he sure can't play.
I'm dead serious.
He's a Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback.
Look,
he's on television every single week.
Tony Romo,
national television,
is a good quarterback. I will give him that credit. But he does not have that intangible that the Aikman had, that Staubach had to win the big game.
You just called the first game of the season the big game. So,
hey, when you're playing a division foe, it's a big game.
Yes, okay.
When you're playing the Eagles, the Giants, and the Cowboys, it's a big game.
Was the opening game of last season not a big game?
It was a huge game.
And Romo went in there and torched the Giants, right?
You're not hearing my point, Travis.
Wait, but you're not hearing my point.
I know he did.
Your point is a bit flawed.
He did. I know he went in there and did that.
But you're saying at Cowboy Stadium.
At Cowboy Stadium. It happens. It's happened all over the place.
All right, man. I think law of averages is going to prove itself to give a win to the Cowboys.
Tomorrow night?
I just want Mommy and Daddy to stop fighting. I feel like I'm in the corner over here.
I will tell you. Here's my prediction for tomorrow night. Des Bryant's going to have a good game tomorrow night. Miles Austin is going to have a better game tomorrow night.
Really?
Yes, Miles Austin will have a better game.
Double coverage on Dez, and then
Dez is going to have a good game.
Yeah.
Miles Austin's going to have a monster game. DeMarco Murray is going to have a good game tomorrow night.
Okay.
Romo is going to get sacked more times than he's been sacked in his whole entire career tomorrow night.
Really?
Yes. And the Cowboys are going to lose this one 27-24.
I like all of your scenarios. I like everything you're saying about who's going to play good. And so I'm going to agree with you on that. And I'll go with Cowboys 35, Giants 14.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Cowboys, here's one thing you've got to know. Cowboys always come out of the box strong. First game of the season, they always come out looking like world beaters. And that's what gets everybody's hopes up. And then they start, like last year, the second game of the season, go to Seattle, not expecting a good team, and just get throttled. And, they kind of, what they've always done is they underestimate some teams, and they just kind of go in there lackadaisical and lose some games. But, first game of the season against the Giants, they will be prepared. Give me Cowboys 35-14.
Well, if the offensive line was playing better and it wasn't such a situation with them, and it wasn't Romo on Romo's back.
How are they
the
playing?
whole time? Travis, you know exactly.
How are they playing?
During the preseason, they were giving up. They were getting clobbered. And they've got some guys in there nobody's ever heard. They got some guys that are going to be playing hurt. And Romo is going to it's going to be on his back. And anytime you put it on his back, that's when you got problems.
All right. Did you see the last episode of Duck Dynasty?
Yes, I did.
Gentleman's Bet.
Hey, you bring it on. I don't care.
All right.
I'm telling you, I'll buy you a steak, man.
Perfect.
Love steak. If the Cowboys can win,
take my whole family out to dinner.
I'll do it.
Say it on the air.
I will take your whole family out to dinner. No problem.
If the Cowboys win?
If the Cowboys win.
Oh,
straight up.
Awesome. All right, Haley, did you hear that?
Yeah, straight up. Cowboys win. I'm just telling you.
I guess I'll just drive the two of you there, huh?
If you want to come along, you can come along.
You can eat too, Joe.
Yeah, but I'm, I just don't see Dallas with the offensive line situation that they've got and putting this thing on Romo's back. I don't see how they can score that many points.
Okay, that's great. I love that you don't see that.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I just don't see how you can be so down on the offensive line and say that DeMarco Murray is going to have a really good game, Miles Austin is going to have this incredibly good game, and then Dez Bryant's going to have a really good game. I just don't see how you can see.
Okay, well,
what do you think offensive line does? It run blocks. It pass blocks.
But what the deal is that with Dez Bryant being double teamed a lot.
Okay.
Romo's going to have to run for his life like he has the last few years, and he's going to have to be throwing the ball a lot.
Okay. So you're thinking turnovers.
That's what he does, though.
And so that's where he's going to be at. But any time he's on the run and has to make quick decisions, he throws a lot of interceptions, too.
So we got a first-round draft pick center that everybody's ranting and raving about. He doesn't help the O-line any?
One guy is not going to hold off that whole giant
you've got Tyron Smith, who was the number 9 overall pick a couple years ago. He's only 21.
You can argue this all day long. I'm telling you, the offensive line.
Okay. All right.
Is going to have some problems tomorrow night against those defensive tackles.
That steak is going to be so good. Medium rare. I just want to go ahead and get this set up. Medium rare. Going to be delicious. For my sides, I'd like a baked potato, loaded, of course. And let's do a side salad. Keep it healthy, right?
We'll see what we come up with.
All right.
So also tomorrow on Monday night, another big game coming up in pro ball. You got the RG3 and the Redskins going up to the Eagles. That's going to be a pretty wild game too.
I don't know who to root for in this one. I hate these games because you hate both teams. So much.
I know.
But the Eagles, of course, we don't know what they're going to be. They could be really good. This Chip Kelly, he's scary. He's going to run hurry-up stuff. He's going to run, 10 plays a minute. So it kind of makes you nervous to say, I want the Eagles to do well. But you also kind of know what the Redskins are doing. And you know how good they were last year and their potential. And you're like, I don't want to root for them. So that's gonna be a tough one to watch. I hope a bad team wins that game. Let's just put it that way.
Both situations, both teams, they got quarterback situations. You got RG3. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mom.
Yes, my mom just sent me a text. All right, I'm going to read this on the air. She says, "I agree with Rick." Wait, here we go. Oh wait, we've got a few. I'm just gonna go to the text story right here. It says, "I agree." This is from my mom, Susan Lyle. All right, I agree with Rick. Romo cracks under pressure at the Death Star.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Brian Ray, the Death Star is built on an Indian burial site, and the Cowboys will never beat the Giants.
Thank you.
Any other big game at home. I hate it when Rick is right and you are wrong. Well, at least thanks for that, Brian. Well, guess what, folks? Mom, Brian, I'm the sports guy here, and I'm saying Cowboys by, what did I say, 35-14?
And, Joe, if you want to, you can go get that Homer medal out of the back room and bring it up here, and he can wear it around his neck the rest of the week.
I think from a Cowboys perspective, there's a lot of stuff going against them. You talk about the Giants coming into the Death Star. Are we supposed to call it AT&T now?
Yeah, it's AT&T Stadium. But
AT&T's got a bad signal.
And that's why I always just go with.
We'll just call it the Death Star.
That's why the Death Star.
I think there's a lot of mojo going against the Cowboys on this game. You've got the Giants coming in. They have seemed to always have won at the Death Star. You've got a lot of offensive line issues. I think I'm going to side with Travis on this one, not just because I want a steak, but I think I'm going to side with Travis on this one just because you feel like at some point the tide has to turn for the Cowboys.
But it ain't tomorrow night.
Wow. Can a brother even have a point in this?
I'm just telling you, it ain't tomorrow night.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I just looking at the
Go ahead, Joseph.
Looking at the preseason, I think Red Ball's going to have his coaches ready to roll. I'm not a real big fan of dumbface Eli, and even though he is a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. He's great, but I think the Giants have some issues as well. I think they're going to come into this game with a little bit of a swagger, saying, "Hey, we beat you in your own house 4 times now." But again, I like what the Cowboys did last year, going up to Giants Stadium, and I'm going to pick Cowboys in this one. I'm going to pick it a little bit closer. I'm going to go 27-14, and let's go Cowboys.
I mean, seriously, I hope the Cowboys win.
Joe.
I really want the Cowboys to win.
Doesn't sound like you do.
No, I want the Cowboys to win. I am looking at this logically looking at this, and I'm just saying they're going.
Why do you have all those New York Giants banners in your office.
Yeah, whatever.
If you're
yeah.
looking
all right,
for
let's
the
get back to
Cowboys
that
to
Monday
win.
night game we were talking. We've already argued this one today.
Okay.
But RG3, Michael Vick in a new offense. RG3 with a surgically repaired knee is going to try to go out and prove to everybody that knee is as good as it's ever been, and he is going to end up possibly re-hurting that knee, possibly.
Yeah.
Michael Vick, another guy trying to prove something, saying that I was the right guy for this offense that Chip Kelly's got rolling in there. So you've got quarterback issues at both sides on both of these teams.
Give me the Eagles. Vick is on my fantasy team. I got him for real cheap. And I'm just looking for him to kind of be a wild card who can put up some crazy numbers. Now, we saw when he got out of jail for killing dogs and went to to Andy Reid, when he first got to Philadelphia, he put up some crazy stats and won a lot of games and looked really good. And he was, maybe he's one of those guys that can actually adjust well to a new offense.
All right, about time to wrap it up. You got some, Joe?
Yeah, I think in this game, I'm going to look at RG3 to come back. I like what Adrian Peterson did last year, coming off that knee surgery from the year before. I'm a real big RG3 guy. I like his morals. I like what he stands for. And I'm going to go Redskins in this one just because I'm not a fan of Chip Kelly either. So, sorry, Travis. I'm going to pick the Hogs on this one.
That's okay, Joe.
Do you have one other thing, Travis?
Well, yeah, I just want to say that, the NFL put in this new rule that if a quarterback even looks like he could possibly run the ball, you can throttle him. You can lay him out. And so I wonder how that's going to affect this option read, but we probably don't have time for that. We may have to get into that next week.
We'll have to talk about that one coming up next week. Another big thank you out to the Oil Pit, D&J Polaris, and the fine folks at Texoma Foam and Womack Construction. That wraps up another Offside. See you next week. Have a great weekend.